What if you're stopped for speeding in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina and charged with DUI? What would you do? Hi, I'm Greg McCollum. I'm a criminal defense lawyer and founder of the Complete Legal Defense Team. Let me tell you about Tim. Tim was driving, I think it was late at night, and he was on a divided highway in the Myrtle Beach area, actually coming into Myrtle Beach. And on that highway, as he's driving along, the speed drops down, and there was a trooper out there who was going in the opposite direction in order to come back and stop him, because apparently he had clocked him and he was speeding. The allegation was Tim was speeding. And so the trooper had to go a little bit further down the highway and turn around and come back. And so what happened was, because the trooper is concerned at that point, if you pass each other on the highway, the mindset of the trooper is, I've got to catch up with that person, because the probable cause for the stop is the speeding. And so sometimes cars look the same. Sometimes there's more than one car out on the highway. And in court, the trooper has to answer questions about, how do you know you stopped the right car? In other words, was there something about that car that stood out? Also, did you lose sight of the car? Because anytime you see something like that and the trooper loses sight, especially for a long period of time, there's really not evidence that they got the right car. So in that situation, the trooper wants to catch up as quickly as possible. And because it took a while, then he just pulled Tim over right away. Now, normally, what the troopers are going to do is, if they think something suspicious is going on, they're going to turn around, they're going to catch up with you. They're going to get behind you, fairly close, but not right on your bumper, and they're going to start looking for clues. Now, speeding is a basis to pull somebody over, and they can certainly then do a DUI investigation. They do it every day. But in this situation, the trooper didn't get behind Tim and follow him and observe his driving. If he did, probably at that point he would have no reason really to pull him over. He could still pull him over for the speeding. So what happens when the trooper pulls him over? Tim pulls over. The trooper's behind him with the blue lights flashing, gets out of the car, approaches the car, and says, let me have your driver's license, your vehicle registration, and your insurance information. Those are the three things that you're required to have in South Carolina. So in that situation, at that point, you're being investigated for DUI. And the trooper is looking at Tim to really gather evidence. So how Tim locates those things, if somebody has trouble locating their driver's license, or can't find their insurance card, or can't find their registration, then the police report and the trooper's report are things like fumbled for his license, appeared confused, appeared disoriented, was unable to locate the proper paperwork, and that sort of thing. So he gets Tim out of the car and then puts him through the sobriety test, the field sobriety test, the so-called sobriety test. Now, this is interesting to me because, they actually, hold a pen up and ask you to follow it with your eyes, and it's called a horizontal gaze nystagmus test. It's complete, if you ask me, complete junk science there. I asked an ophthalmologist, I asked my eye surgeon one time about that test, and he just looked at me in disbelief that they use that on the side of the road to determine if somebody is intoxicated. So that was the medical doctor's opinion. The other thing is a walk and turn, where you walk on a line 9 steps, heel to toe, looking down, hands at your side, which makes it more difficult to balance. Cars are whizzing by, blue lights are flashing in your eyes. If this test, you don't pass a test in school, you get a bad grade. Don't pass this test, you get handcuffed and taken to jail and charged with DUI. So it's very difficult to do that. And then the other test is the one-leg stand, where you're asked to stand on one leg, stick one foot out about 8 to 10 inches over the ground, look at your toe, point your toe, keep your hands by your side, which is a very unnatural position to try to balance. So they're asking you to do this, okay? So this is what Tim is asked to do. Now, a lot of people now just say, no, thank you. I'm not going to do any tests. Now, that probably results in your arrest. But if you ask me, no one's ever passed those tests well enough on the side of the road to not be arrested. And if you look at the position the law enforcement officer is in, if he lets somebody go and then later they injure somebody, they're going to blame him. They're going to say, you had him on the side of the road, you didn't do your job. So there's nothing to be gained by the trooper releasing Tim at that moment. There's nothing to be gained by, if you're pulled over, letting you go. The safest thing for the trooper to do is arrest you. So what does that look like? You tell Tim, turn around and put your hands on the hood of the car. Then they come behind you. They take one hand, handcuff it behind your back, handcuff you like that. In South Carolina, they put you in the front of the patrol car and they put the video camera on you. Now, I should have mentioned that as soon as the police officer is behind you, even before he catches up to Tim, his video camera is running so they can observe your driving and how that's going. As the trooper walks up to the door, that's on camera. The trooper has a camera on him. There's one in his car. They put you in front of the car to do these sobriety tests. So as you struggle with that, it's all caught on camera. That's to build a case against you. That's what they're doing. So in this situation, they take Tim. He's handcuffed. He's taken to jail. His car is towed. He spends the night in jail like everyone does, and then gets out the next day, has to locate his car, has to find out what the towing bill is, has to try to figure out how to get that without a driver's license. So it's a terrible situation to be in. It happens to everybody that way. Once we got the evidence on Tim's case and looked at it, we thought he looked pretty good. And that's really what it comes down to, is how do you look on the video? And if you don't look good, is there an explanation for it? And honestly, in our jurisdiction, there's no incentive to plead to DUI. If we try the DUI case, it takes, say, a day, 3/4 of a day. If you're convicted, it's the same as if you pled guilty. The only difference is you have to sit through the trial and have the jurors hear about you. So in that situation, rather than plead to a DUI, we're always going to try it, okay, unless there's some other severe consequence, but there usually isn't. So in this case, they're going to trial. And so what happened was, speeding is not an indication of DUI. If anything, if you're going faster and you're staying in your lane and you're driving smoothly, it's actually the opposite. It actually indicates that you're able to drive and you're not under the influence. The other thing is that we all know that speed kills. That what kills people is not drunk driving. What kills people are high-speed collisions. If somebody's driving, whether they're had anything to drink or not, and they're going at a high rate of speed, and they hit a fixed object, or they run off the road and they roll their car, certainly if they're ejected or something like that, that's a fatality. In this situation, because we were exploring at trial, because if we can show that he stopped the wrong car, okay, then we can get the case thrown out if he stopped the wrong car. It wouldn't matter if Tim was driving under the influence or not, if they stopped the wrong car, because they have to have probable cause. So in doing that, in the actual jury trial, I'm trying to establish time and distance. In other words, if the trooper clocks Tim going, say he says he's going, just to make it easy, 60 miles per hour, okay, that means Tim's traveling at a mile a minute. And that if it took him 30 minutes, or excuse me, if it took him 30 seconds to slow down, hit the median, wait till no traffic's coming, pull back out, come back up, at that point, Tim's going to be, if it takes 30 seconds, he's going to be a half a mile away, okay? So the trooper, he knows what I'm doing, so he's trying to minimize that. The other thing is, at least all the troopers I know, and I used to be a DUI prosecutor, and I knew 40 of them because I handled all their cases. They're all like would-be race car drivers. You know, they're very attracted to the fact that they can drive these cars. They have these fast cars. They have these high-performance engines. They have special, suspensions. The cars are made to go fast. They're made to go faster than other cars. And if you've ridden in one, they're like a race car. So they love that. So in order to minimize the time that it took to catch Tim, the trooper admitted, because of the time he said it took to get him, that the trooper on this road, say the speed limit's 45, the trooper gets up to say 100, maybe broke 100. So I'm arguing to the jury, and I remember this, the example of what's dangerous is speed. And what happened that night, what the trooper did was far more dangerous than what Tim did. What the trooper did, if the trooper had struck somebody, would have likely resulted in a fatality, because he's going 100 in a 45, okay? And I also use the example that if you just pictured a town and everybody in the town was driving drunk, just picture that. Everybody in town is driving drunk, and no one's going over, say, 10 or 12 miles per hour. And people are running into bushes, and people are running in ditches, and people are running off the road, and people are hitting each other like bumper cars. No one would get hurt. But based on what the trooper did, just to catch somebody who was speeding, traveling over 100 miles an hour, that was the dangerous part. So in this particular case, the jury hooked onto that. They bought it, and we got a not guilty. So that's just an example of what happens in a case, how somebody is stopped, and what happened to Tim. Tim obviously was very grateful because he was acquitted, so he didn't have to suffer the license suspension. He didn't have to suffer the insurance penalty. He didn't have to suffer a suspended license and a special restricted license. He didn't have to go to the ADSAP classes for 6 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever they would have recommended. So it was a good result for him. Now, this is something we do all the time. This is just one example of one DUI case. We do literally 75 to 100 DUI cases a year. So if you're in the same situation as Tim, you need assistance, go to CompleteLegalDefenseTeam.com, contact us. We will explain everything to you. If your license is suspended, we will do everything required to get a hearing as soon as possible. Within a day or two, we'll have that scheduled, and then we'll have your license restored until you go to that hearing. We do all that for you. We pay the filing fee for you. It's come to my attention that some lawyers don't pay the filing fee. We pay the filing fee. We handle everything. We want you to get your license back as quickly as possible. We'll get the evidence. We'll do everything to make sure that you do not get convicted of a DUI and you don't suffer the consequences. You'll end up like Tim and have none of those negative consequences going forward. Additionally, if you get a DUI conviction, it stays on your record for 10 years. And they also, in South Carolina, there's a letter that's on the driver's license that when the trooper looks at your driver's license number, he sees that you had a prior DUI. And you know what that does, then that's going to trigger them to investigate even harder. So we hope this doesn't happen to you, but if you get a DUI, you need help, contact the Complete Legal Defense Team. We defend the accused who have a lot to lose. Most of our clients have never been arrested before. Typically, probably 70-75% of our clients have never been arrested before. We're in the business of helping people who haven't been through this before, and we do everything possible to make the experience as pleasant as possible and to get the best result as possible. So I'm Greg McCollum. Contact my law firm, CompleteLegalDefenseTeam.com, if you need help with a DUI.